It's a warm-up.
Yeah, exactly. We'll repeat the same situation. We'll go through the time loop again as we do. Everything is coming back to time loops. And anyways, everything is coming back to time loops. So anyways, no.
We're coming back to Power Wash Simulator. That's right, everybody. The team racing tourney continues tonight here on twitch.tv/smite. How is everyone doing? We've got some sick Power Wash matches coming up.
I'm here for even more Power Wash matches. Like, as the local Power Washed, and it wasn't a simulation, it legitimately happened. I got washed. I'm happy to see even more highly skilled people playing this game today.
This is our weekly at this point. There are 4 or 5 matches left, including this one. We are in the lower brackets, part 3 semifinals, sort of up the road. This is actually the quarterfinals final match.
So they're fighting for their tournament lives then if we're down here?
Everyone is, except for one team.
Oh, they are in grand finals?
They are. We're waiting to see who they're going to fight against.
Who will wash and who will get washed? We will find out tonight.
They better wash out for sure.
You know, I was looking at this stream very, very intently. I call that a power watch. And if you at home try to do what I am doing, you will be performing a power watch simulator.
I'm going to give them the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
So Blizzard's releasing a new game, right? And they're deciding to keep with like the same team aspect and everything like that too. And they're going to call it Overwash.
Well, these teams are going to hope they don't overwash, because one of the biggest ways to lose time in this, at least from what I've seen, is for 2 members to either wash the same place too much or just spend too much time on the same area. Like, we were talking a little bit before it started, but people are getting so good and times are getting so optimized that small mistakes or small slowdowns become huge. I know that last time someone spent just like a little too much time on top of the shed in the backyard stage, and that just cost everything.
Yeah, and I mean, even on that same note, I was kind of watching Flagra, like, kind of just stand there, maybe not getting the heads up that the game has started, and this is just the optimization point of the tournament. Everyone here has completely shown their skill, and I don't know, maybe that little just not paying attention to chat or the countdown or whatever happened there might actually cost everything.
And that might also be a little bit of delay. I know some people are streaming from across the pond, so...
True. Yeah, I guess that distance would make a lot of effect. I hope it's the latter, Matt. I absolutely hope it's the latter.
Same. It looks like, though, both teams are pretty much on pace here, 6% to 6%. And oftentimes, just based on routing, you'll see gaps widen and close. And it's really till, like, the very end when it starts to become apparent. But right now, it seems that there's some pretty similar strats going on. We have one person on each team on top of the roof, kind of taking care of that.
We have one person making pollo asado.
Yo, that looks delicious.
Great play. But how will the chicken help out?
That's my fault for refreshing them, because you're right, it is latency. One of their teammates is at 4% and the other one's at 10, so I'm like, that's synchronized. That's a little better.
Yeah. All right, we're getting there. We're getting there. But okay, now we're starting to see some of that, like, that difference in style there. You're starting to see Teleka, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, using more of that I don't have proper terms for this, but it's more spinning washer instead for the actual, like, reach. But on the other hand, I did not see Maniacal Gamer use that whatsoever when reaching the top of the buildings as much.
That is the rotating nozzle.
The rotating nozzle, thank you. But I'm going to call it the spinny thing. No, I'm calling it rotating nozzle.
Yeah, you don't need that model number.
Right. I got you, fam. I'll link the Amazon link to you.
This map is a little background mechanically speaking. I know these maps pretty well. This one is not meant to have the full range extension that they have here that gives them an extra 2 feet. So they are able to reach the top of this fire drill tower which they normally would not be able to do. So you come into this map, you have to know that you have that equipment. It's a different plan than before. They do
And
not
in general,
need the
what's the
scaffolding.
format for tonight?
What?
Like, what's the format for tonight? Is it going to be like this on all the maps, just a little bit stronger washers than the maps originally called for?
From here on out in this tournament, we have tier 4 all the way down the line because at this point the only maps left are ridiculous. And this one here, even with an extremely good loadout, is still, we're clocking in at 26, 27 minutes.
Oh yeah, that's significant still.
As the whole firehouse.
Yeah, this
Right.
is like the first stage in the game where they're like, you know what, some of these are going to take a while. This one's one where they give you enough money to go buy parts and go somewhere else after you're half done. You can just come back when you feel like it. It's very
27-minute par, nothing to sneeze at.
No, absolutely not. But just like the firehouse, this is lit right now. They are both doing great work on the tower, but it feels like Maniacal Gamer actually has like more of a general flow, like kind of going up and down, trying to move around here, whereas Noteleka is just like kind of being more, making sure they aren't missing anything, making sure that they kind of maybe are overwashing everything, as we kind of go back to our earlier joke, but this time I'm serious.
And that could be a problem. Both teams really have been doing very, very similar strats. And for one team to be 8% ahead, again, that could just be, who knows, maybe on the right they cleaned off one particularly big thing that was very fast. But with one person on the roof and one person on the tower and one team being around 7% ahead, it's maybe a little concerning for a new old age home. Again, we will have to see when times get a little more near the end. But this has been one of, at least of the matches I've seen, one of the ones where the strats are the most similar between the two teams. Like, we often see people go for different stuff first, and at least usually there's one person varying their strat, but right now it's kind of just the same on both sides, roof and tower.
Yeah, and like one thing we were kind of seeing a little bit earlier when between a little bit of practice on Captain Carrot's side and everything is just like they were just jumping off the little pole, seeing how fast they could get to the roof and whatnot, and just practicing that strat. So I think there's just a lot of importance to making sure that there is at least one person on the roof as fast as they can, because there is a lot of work to be done up there.
That long range extension has been, I think, a death note for a lot of players because they have just tried to use it. It's new equipment, so you in your head you think it might be better, but it is a thing with a purpose, and the purpose is not to clean something right in front of you. That is much slower. It lowers your spread, and I think that's one of the reasons why Noteleka is losing the fire drill house race here. I mean, they're using it to clean the roof too, but they're spending a lot of time on the bottom, and they're losing their width of their spray, because this is the tier 4 power washer, and it comes with so much more strength than the other three. You have to take that into mind too. The washer itself, this is just regular dirt. It's not meant for this one. You're touching this thing with this thing. You're gonna stripe the paint off these bricks with this thing, you know. So they should be using as wide of an angle as they can get at all times.
Yeah, and it's really adding up, like you're saying, just the proper spacing and the proper use of the nozzle by Gills and Chills is just keeping them a little bit ahead. And with everybody getting so good at the game these days, getting the lead and just maintaining it is so big. You definitely, in any competitive game, don't want to be in a position where you need your opponent to make a mistake to get back into it.
Right, right. But I will say, on the other hand, though, you know, I was kind of eyeballing the percentages up to this point here, and there was a pretty significant lead, I would say around like that 6 to 7% consistently, but it seems to actually be closing in here, and I'm not sure if maybe Captain Carrot on the other end is like picking up the pace where, you know, Flagra is not exactly as fast, and I'm wondering, like, yeah, it's actually seeming to get like just a bit closer here and there.
Yeah, this is where it gets kind of hard to tell when... Oh, yeah, it's now just 3%. Like we were saying earlier, big leads can shrink in a second if somebody decides to do just a particularly large, flat area where you can get a ton of percentage all at once.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, if, let's say, Flogger is doing, right now, a little bit more detailing work, the other team is also going to have to do that eventually. So at some point, those sort of leads will converge a little bit.
This one's big one is the roof, which both players are working on a lot. There is a 30% of it is just that firehouse roof over there. and then the walls of the drill tower, which all the players have cleared. And then inside the drill tower, you have 4 stories of floors and walls that are just covered in. It's pretty light grime, but it is dirt nonetheless.
Yeah, you're kind of seeing like the details that Notaleka is going under there, just getting under the stairs, hitting the bricks under there, and you know, if it sucks, hit the bricks, and that is absolutely what's being done here.
It's nerve-wracking to see just how far they're willing to walk off the sides here to get the right angle. It feels like falling here would be tragic.
Yeah, okay. We're not alone on that, because I have been watching that the entire time, and I'm just kind of like, ooh, like my foot is bouncing. I'm just like a little bit nervous, like, oh God, don't fall off. I mean, I know it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but also, oh God.
You can always clean more on your way back up.
Mm-hmm.
And a literal back up strat.
And I was gonna say, that's what actually, like, literally what Maniacal did, just kind of like sprayed and prayed on their way up there, and then Notaleka's just kind of like, okay, I'll do it step by step, day by day.
Yeah, I can see everyone now is using no extension at all, so this is what I was talking about. And these players are really good, they've made it this far. They know that they want to use the power of this washer as much as they can, so they're all using no extension, just pure spread, and we're gonna deal with the rust on the building last, probably, or take the time to go over it real fine to make up for that.
So, Smite, knowing this map, I think, much better than me or Ryudo do, what would you say you think is the area that is most likely to either get missed, overlooked, or just have like a little bit that doesn't get caught?
Well, like always, there's some trim on the bottom of the building, little boards that are split up into 20 pieces, the scaffolding, I forget what it's called, but it's called cladding on the firehouse. It's not the gutter, it's cladding, so it's this square thing. You have to hit it from every angle, and you have to get underneath it as well. It's pretty annoying. But the real miss here is the fire drill house. I've seen every player do it so far. They have to come back and finish either some section of wall, or what you need to do, you're supposed to use the scaffolding. You're not supposed to have the long range extension, and they know that when they develop this map, so you're supposed to be looking down at all the windows and shooting the tops of them to clean some dirt out that they're not going to be able to see from below. And that might get them if they forget to do that.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's a tricky one, because, you know, I was kind of feeling like, okay, yeah, they're doing a great job hitting everything from the bottom of the building and everything like that, and, you know, getting that extra reach from there, not using that having to be vertical or scaffolding or anything like that. I'm like, that's perfect. This works out great. But that is a good point. You always got to get the tops of these. And, it seems like Notaleka is starting to hit that a little bit here as on their way up this crazy tower here.
Yeah, it's really going to reward map awareness to the players who remember that. It's the type of thing where when you're overpowered for the map, it's easy. And this is like a game-wide thing. It can be easy when you're going back to something where you have better gear than was intended to like maybe forget something that is just required because you're able to just blow through some of the other stuff in a way that maybe wasn't demanded the first time through. So that's kind of one of the big drop points of this map, I would imagine, then, that if one team does make that mistake and the other doesn't, that could be huge.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, we're mostly looking at, like, 2 big screens here, and we can only see, like, the smaller details of, like, Captain Karen and Flagra. So it's like, we can only kind of tell what has happened on the big screens, but it's kind of on the small screens. It seems they're being... Captain Karen's been, like, very, like, robotic movement, very thorough and whatnot, and you can see Flagra just kind of like more rapidly spraying around and everything like that. It's kind of the same thing that we're seeing from Maniacal Gamer. And I'm wondering if that's going to work really well, because it seems like the firehouse itself has a lot more fine details kind of in comparison to this more contained fire drill house.
Now, the drill house is weird because they split the walls into many pieces, the brick walls. Every story has 4, I think. Each wall is its own, like, A, B, C, and D on, and then you go up a story and it's repeating instead of it just being one huge thing that you only have to clean a little bit of, well, 99% of, but you can leave spots. You can't leave spots here because it's really not that big. Each piece is just one part of the wall.
Just for my clarity's sake here, so you're saying like, oh well, I think I just literally just saw it right there. So every floor has a set of brick walls. So it's like floor 1, 2, 3, 4, and they are each their own segment in itself.
Yeah, and it's not just the brick walls. That's the part people seem to miss. But the stairs is also that way.
Ah, gotcha.
And the time spent having to like go back and figure out which one you missed from all these identical walls and stairs could be a huge make or break point. So I think like the methodical strategy of just making sure you get all of them on the way down is probably going to pay off really well.
Yeah. I'm feeling like once we see Nodaleka get to like finally get to the top and everything like that, and just see those dings go left and right is going to be, absolute ASMR for one, but two, it's going to really have a huge payoff in the long run for this.
This is a 27:30 par. So we're at 14 minutes and at 75%. I'm assuming this is the type of thing where the last 25% is going to last a lot longer than the first 25% or the second, et cetera, when you really have to get down into the details and finish stuff up.
They've hit the big parts first, which is kind of the opposite of what the last teams did. But the roof and this drill tower are half of the map, and that's nowhere near all of it. They got windows to clean. They got some fire department stuff that I don't pretend to know what it is on the left side of the building. Needs some scrubbing. They have like tools and rusty bits on the wall that apparently they hook their trucks up to or something. I don't know.
Just firehouse things.
Yeah. The firehouse Lego pieces.
Right. I've seen a lot of commercials in the 90s, and I know very peculiar things about firehouse people, and it's that they really like baked beans, and that's basically all I've learned. So this is going way beyond my expectations that I ever learned from a good
this grime, that's from the beans.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, you all gotta stop eating these beans in the tower. No, you can't stop me. You have to catch me as he rows up the stairs of the tower, spreading beans everywhere.
This is 40 years of baked bean residue being cleaned in 27 minutes.
Power
wash is beautiful.
Power wash is beautiful, but so is baked beans. So hey, sometimes you don't have to compromise. Sometimes you can have both, and that's why we can have good things in life, Mini Matt.
Finally.
Beans
good
and
things
wash.
in life. Beans and power washing. Name a more iconic duo.
I'll wait, because we're about halfway throughout this one.
My volunteer fire department has a big neon sign on the way into town for recruitment that says something like, we got low pay, bad hours, you gotta be on call all the time, full hat though. Like, I hope their strategy works for them. I don't know.
I really thought that was going to end with them saying, but we have baked beans or something like that. I thought truth was stranger than fiction.
They're cool hats that are filled with baked beans. There you go, Matt. All right, so now Nodaleka's actually made it to the top here. And just, the tower power situation going on here. And I'm just waiting for the huge payoff. And now Maniacal Gamer is kind of just doing that check over thing, being very thorough, making sure it's like, did I hit everything in this wild tower of mine?
Not a bad idea. We've definitely seen in previous rounds a team just not looking at that for a really long time and wasting a lot of time just trying to find stuff manually.
Mm-hmm.
This railing is one of the things that probably is much easier to hit from the side, but our players are very gymnastic here. Both of them. They've done a really good job with this tower.
Yeah, I was going to say, they've been kind of really wheeling and dealing on this tower. I'm legitimately impressed, because when I saw the tower from like the outside and I realized there was an actual inside you have to spray too, I kind of got that slight bit of nervousness, like, oh god, there just seems like there's so much to miss here. But they have been so nice, thorough, and, excuse the very intentional pun, clean with their gameplay that I'm just satisfied by seeing how far they've made it here in just, under 20 minutes, mind you.
If they can avoid using the scaffolding, they're going to be way faster than the other two teams that set the par for us, because they had trouble with that. And you can see Nodaleka's trying to get some of that nonsense right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a really good point too. I feel like the less reliance on any of the vertical helpers is well worth it in both saving time, because you are able to hit everything without setting everything up and then hitting it, but also on my personal experience, sometimes you break the ladders. Sometimes you send someone to space. Sometimes the ladder becomes intangible. You can't mess with it anymore. And then what do you do if you have no backup plan to the normal plan? You can't just restart. You got to just hold that L.
Checking the menu and seeing the drill tower is done, and Alexis moving on to the house. This map's cool because you can take the scaffolding up the stairs to the far drill tower and just plant it on the top, and then you have another drill tower to climb, and then you can jump over the fence.
What? Yo, that rules!
Maniacal Gamer's actually been stuck for a little bit on this tower, just missing a tiny bit, it looks like. I've been seeing them spray just kind of the same corner for a while. It looks like they're trying to find that last little bit, and I think that's what it was. Yeah, it's exactly as you called it, Smite. It was a little bit on the bottom of the floor.
It's hard to track those because they're not labeled like A, B, C, and D. They're just called like trim. That's how you get.
And I think one interesting thing is that, we saw Maniacal Gamer kind of going in a little bit more like wild spraying and whatnot, and actually kind of was getting that very early lead and was able to finish the outside of the tower and really make it to the inside very, very quickly, just in large strides. But that very thorough play of Notaleka just actually paid off in the end, was able to leave the tower significantly earlier than Maniacal Gamer, who had to kind of find that last little spot spray to be able to move on.
Yeah, and now there's basically no gap. 2% is nothing. 2% is one missed window.
2% is milk.
2% is milk.
And they are milking for this for all it's worth.
The biggest point of energy on this map is at about 80% when the player finishes the drill tower, knows they did, and jumps right off of a 5-story drill tower to go gunning after the firehouse.
Yeah, I see Maniacal Gamer jump a few times off the tower trying to seek out things, and I wince every time because it's just like video game notions make me think, oh, you're gonna break your legs and lose all your health, you're gonna have to reload. But it's like, no, these are power washers, and they got power legs for days.
Yeah, you have to be ready. You have to stay on your toes. You cannot be missing your toes, Jamal. If you cannot be lacking your toes. You in fact have to be lactose intolerant.
You was going after you re-emphasized toes, and I started laughing again because I had more drink in my mouth. Matt, you can't get away with this.
Oh, but I can. And it looks like New Old Age Home might be getting away with a bit of a comeback here. They were behind by like 7%, but they are almost neck and neck here going into the last 10% of the map.
Yeah, and I was going to mention this a little bit earlier. I was watching Captain Carrot and Flagra take their different approaches on some of these second-story windows. Captain Carrot was standing like on the window like ledge and like spraying it from right up close, and Flagra was just on the ground spraying away, having a great time. And I felt like that was a little bit faster because of kind of that reach of the spray that we were talking about earlier. And it looks like it might be paying off just a little bit here as we get to the end here.
Yeah, spacing is surprisingly very important in this game. I guess not surprisingly, but you wouldn't think that Power Wash Simulator would be a footsies game where your spacing needs to be nice, but it definitely is.
Right. You got the Dhalsim arms, you got the Zangief arms. It definitely makes sense.
You got to do your projectile with the maximum possible spacing so it's exactly as plus as it needs to be.
The only thing that Power Wash has over fighting games is that jumping is good.
You can hot swap these extensions faster than you could in real life, which is 10 turns to the right. So they ought to be doing that when they need to.
And power washing is kind of low-key terrifying in real life. These power washers can cause some major damage to life and limb.
I've used one on my sidewalk. There's one piece of equipment that's not in this game at all, and it is like it's a pushable kind of a broom mop thing, a vacuum cleaner, but it's a power washer. It's a pretty.
That sounds amazing.
One. Yeah, you just shove it around, and it's a circle that spits out water, and you couldn't possibly get hit by that one. You could destroy something with it. But,
but not you.
Yeah.
You can destroy anything but yourself, which is pretty optimal, I think. Speaking of optimal, Gills and Chills have kept that 3% lead the whole time. They're 99%. They have the checklist 2 out of 3. We could actually see the map end here at 23 minutes for Team Gills and Chills, and there it is. 22:45, 5 minutes almost below par.
Wow, yeah, like that scalping that Smite was mentioning earlier really paid off in dividends, like not having to use that or rely on it. And mind you, Maniacal Gamer did have to here and there to make sure that he reached everything. It really just, that goes way beyond par. They are hitting eagles and birdies over there.
Yeah, they're setting new times. This is world record stuff as far as I know.
And still, new old age home is still like significantly under par.
Yeah, this is a great time, just not quite as great as the other time. And unfortunately, in a tournament, that's what it comes down to.
Right. As we were talking about earlier, from the kind of tournament mindset, sometimes it's getting to the point where everyone is super skilled, and that is a
they
bummer.
did miss something on the top of the tower.
No! And you know, Notaleca is just like kind of slapping their hand, like, dang it, ah!
Wow, that was a loud slap. I could hear that through your mic.
Oh God!
Are you afraid?
I keep beating myself up over it.
I can't believe my slap was too loud. Dang it, wham!
Dang it!
We're looking for one wall on the left, Ymir.
Oh,
somewhere.
no.
So the thing to do is to just highlight it with your mouse and see if any of that little bar pops up. There it is. 24.
All right, there
20.
we are.
Still 3 minutes under par.
Yeah, it's still insanely fast. But great stuff to Gills and Chills. They were doing anything but chilling on that map. They flew through it.
And it was kind of I wouldn't say rare, but they had the lead and they just kept it the whole time. And I think it's because both teams' strats were so similar that there wasn't going to be that weird point where one team gets to, pull ahead because of routing and then it swaps back. They were doing basically the same thing, and Gills and Chills just managed to be ahead and stay ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And I think kind of that big thing that we saw, that at least the main difference that I was viewing between the two teams was that Maniacal Gamer was spraying a little bit more, as the name implies, maniacally, and kind of doing a little bit more wilding out, trying to go for that more 99% aspect where they don't have to clean every little thing, but, just kind of hitting things overall very, very well. They had a good quick system, but you can see that there was a lot of spots still kind of missing and whatnot. And they kind of get back every now and then and hit it, but then they kind of let it go from there, where Notaleca was just super patient, super thorough, just kind of washed through everything. And I think they were kind of equal in the long run, but the big problem was that they missed that wall at the top at the very end. And that honestly could have been all that it took to make a difference between these two.
Yeah, I think this could easily still go either way.
This map is much shorter than the other one. Our par time is 11 minutes, and that was beaten pretty handily by the two teams who did this last time. I think they got around 10:30. Here we go.
Ooh. All right, both of these teams are going to be
3,
competing
2, 1, go.
To wash the monster truck.
This map is full of little metal bits. Like all the vehicles in this game, it's got 1,000 parts that are hard to find, covered in rust. We have a lot of power washing power on this one. This is almost appropriate. You should maybe be getting towards the power 4 at this point, but not quite. So we're still a little overtuned. I would expect the wheels to be a hazard because they have double tread going in different directions. They're huge, and they have rims that are rusted, and they are very hard to clean without any indication of really what still needs cleaned on them.
So do you think the rust is going to be a big sticking point here?
It'll come off if they focus on it, but they do need to spend time to actually get it. It will not come off just on its own, like the dirt does.
So it got a little bit of like focus spray, take a little bit more time with the water on it, and then it will come off at that time then?
Yeah, as far as we can tell for stats, there are stats on the things that the power washers are good at, and they're progressively better at everything. And this one has like a little bar called rust, and it is like 20% filled instead of 0, and then 5%, and then 10%. So it is about 4 or 5 times better at rust than the first one. But it's still, as you can see on Electa, it's just not coming off even when they're spraying all of it. It's just still there, so they have to focus on it a little bit. Really hit it for a couple seconds.
Yeah, Maniacal Gamer's like very flow and spin style is just absolutely wrecking the Rust out here, and I'm legitimately impressed to kind of see it because it's just working. I think we're now seeing the power of like the style that Maniacal Gamer is bringing to everything and why it works so well overall in kind of these small little bits and areas. It does still spend a lot of time on something for kind of that DPS aspect, and it just seems like it's working super, super well just looking at these percentages right now.
Like, it's kind of, in a sense, a little bit of an option select in that you go ham for a bit, and if you did manage to hit everything, it's just significantly faster. And if you didn't, you go back and fix the parts you missed. Mm-hmm. And I'm not entirely convinced that takes significantly more time than it would to just very carefully make sure you didn't miss them in the first place. So you kind of like either go marginally slower or significantly faster. And I would imagine that adds up in the long run.
And I love that reference to saying it's an option select and everything like that. It just, by doing that action, it essentially creates the best outcome for yourself in two different situations. And so you kind of play off of that. You see what happens, and then you play off that for just making sure that we have our terminology out there. And I love that aspect a lot because that really makes a good point. It is so much marginally slower to say, okay, I kind of sprayed like this, and you can probably kind of feel out, I see what's going on here, what I kind of missed, what didn't hit as well, what didn't blink. It's something that you can actually really react to super well. And then if you don't do it, then you kind of just hit tab, see what you missed, and get right back into there. Get back on that Cowboy champion.
Yeah, it seems to be a pretty efficient way of doing things. I was going to say that, like, Kills and Chills were ahead because they were getting all of the easy stuff first, and it looked like Captain Carrot in particular was spending a lot of time on detailing, but they still have a pretty big lead. We might see that close real fast when Kills and Chills are forced to do the detailing, so we will see, but they are looking pretty good, at least exactly right now.
And I will say one thing that, at least my perception of how this works, seems to be happening here, is that you mentioned that they need to get into some of those details and whatnot, but I think some of the things I'm seeing from like this team here on Gills and Chill is that they are standing on so many parts to do a major washing. So like they'll reach the further parts out that are more broad and everything like that, but they're standing right next to the parts that are very much more detailed. So they're kind of hitting that with the ultimate amount of blast that they need to be able to clean it off very, very quickly. And I think that's also paying off too. Just the sheer positioning that they're showing off here on top of the large cat.
Ultimate amount of blast.
Yeah, ultimate blast.
The top of the cat is a little curvy, hard to get in there and get the crevices, but the bottom of the car is definitely where all those awful parts are every time in these vehicles. And it's monster truck, so thankfully with the new prone, you can just crawl under there and get it.
And it looks like that's exactly what Note Electa is doing right now, getting that undercarriage finished. I'm not sure. Flagra is starting that, but that's the thing Gills and Chills are moving on to now. And with New Age Old Home having that largely done underneath, we might see the percentages creep closer towards each other here now that Flagra and Maniacal Gamer might need to start working on that difficult undercarriage.
Right. But there is something to be said about, hey, there's a very difficult part to this whole thing, and there's two of us working on it. And that in itself might make up for the time just saying, cool, I can kind of watch what you're doing, kind of watch where you're spraying, and I'll just make up on the other side. We'll just kind of, collectively blast rather than trying to be super precise, and maybe that can kind of save time in itself.
Yeah, that strat definitely has the potential to be very, very fast, but in a way it's a little high risk, high reward. By separating the teams, you make sure you don't waste time hitting the same stuff. And going at it at the same time, while it might make it faster, if they just happen to have too many times where it's like, oops, we're aiming at the same place, oops, we're hitting the same thing, that could be a problem. But honestly, it doesn't look like it's going to be. They're at 97% to the other team's 80. This is reaching the point where differences in routing probably are not going to be able to tie things up here. And I think it's just, kind of what you mentioned, kind of what we've been talking about is Maniacal Gamer's approach of going wide and then cleaning up the bits that were missed just does seem to have that explosive potential for speed. And if they hit all of their, I don't want to use the term RNG, but if every time they did it, they did hit the ideal scenario where they got it in one, that could really explain this 10% difference here.
These players have had a lot of time to practice these maps too, more than the other team that had to do them.
Oh yeah, how long has it been since they've had the knowledge of this Tier 4 setup in this maps?
I think we saw this map 2 weeks ago, and this team knew at least a week ago that they were doing it, that they had won. But they also knew that this map was coming up at some point if they did win.
Gotcha. So yeah, that is a significant amount of time and to train it out. And I will say, despite what the scoreboard shows, it's definitely clear that both these teams have practiced very, very well on both these maps here, and they have techniques and tactics that have really panned out so far, and it's beautiful to see.
They're cruising, and with just a couple minutes left, they're still in the lead of what the other teams wouldn't have had a chance against if they had moved at this pace.
Because once again, sometimes you're just the better player that day. Nothing gets your personal skill level or anything like that. Sometimes you are just really feeling it. You're on point. You understand everything. And then you wake up the next day, you're like, I don't know how to power wash anymore.
Some days you're the power, some days you're the wash.
Yep. Unless you're me. It's all wash, baby. They call me George because I'm washing a ton.
Maniacal Gamer is using the yellow nozzle, which has a smaller spread. It probably had paid off better on the rust. Elect is using the green one, and I think that's why they're still struggling with some of this.
And with Checklist on the right, that struggle might be cut short very soon here. Assuming that there's no weirdness of one thing being missed, this is looking pretty good for Gills and Chills. 2 checks down, just one more ding, and they're going to take this set. And there it is, job complete. Gills and Chills are the victors. We will not be seeing the third tiebreaker map here.
Yeah, absolutely. The struggle bus has now become a cat monster truck here, and just Gills and Chills has been just showing so many different aspects to like what I've seen a lot more of the general public of Power Wash Simulator, how they play the game, where it's like, okay, I'm going to move very robotically, move very in and out, use the keyboard to kind of keep my power wash like aimed at a specific area. And instead, Maniacal Gamer and Flograw just kind of like tossing it back and everything like that, kind of hitting everything really quickly, spinning to win and all that good stuff. And it seems to be maybe a new meta is on the horizon, but they're not the ones in grand finals. So there is some techniques to take going forward.
And like Smite mentioned, the difference in nozzle, the difference in strat, just all of it adds up to a very close match that Gills and Chills are, I'm sure they're happy they won, because getting forced to a game 3 is never something you want to deal with in a tournament set.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
933 on the right, and 827 on the right. 923 versus 827 on the right. So I need to figure out what maps the lower bracket semifinals will be doing, because Maniacal Gamer and Flogger will be doing that soon. Next week. Captain Carrot.
Congratulations to them.
Finally out.
Just completely doing a good job, getting down and dirty with the clean play. And, I'm excited to see what they bring for the next setup here. Because like Smite said, they had a little bit more time to practice this one. They knew it was coming and everything like that. But this one is going to happen within the next week. Because we're coming down to like some of the final parts of these brackets here. And so now it's like, okay, when you don't have as good of a turnaround, technique shines a little bit more than preparation in this case. And I'm wondering if that technique holds out against the team that they're going to be playing against next week.
The maps will be a little longer. I am seeing the players talking about it. The tires got them both. It was the last thing that both teams finished. Those double tread tires that are huge, weird, and wide. They take up so much of the dirt on the map. And for some reason, you just can't get them. You would think that big wheels would be easy to clean.
No, those wheels are absolute monsters for sure.
The treads are so tricky. There's so many little angles to miss.
And at least for me, if I was in that situation, I'd sure be tired.
I think we're treading old ground here.
That's right. We gotta wheel on out of here. We got a nice little match here tonight. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. And as Smite said, and we'll announce to all of you, I'm sure, that the next matches will be coming up next week. But we're getting to the finals here. So this is, if you've been not tuning in as like significantly as you should be, now's the time. Now's the time to see what these teams bring to the table.
I imagine that we're going to see some 20-minute maps, unless they're way faster than I think they are. They got really good at the treehouse, one of the longest maps I've seen. With the Tier 4 washer, we actually gave them a 20-minute time limit, and they nearly finished it in that, but I didn't think it was possible to finish in 30 minutes. I think they were proving me wrong. These next maps, though, we might hit that time limit and just go by who cleared the most, because they are very long. I'm going to get to the parts where we're at, like, the carousel and such, but they will have at least 5 days of notice, because I'm going to schedule them for the weekend, Friday or Saturday.
Exciting and awesome. I'm also ready for them to prove you wrong, 100%, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to get to the point where they're supposed to have the Tier 4 washer now. They definitely are getting there. If you haven't gotten it yet, it's because you wasted all your money on, like, the skin for your washer or something. Like, you bought
it's
different...
important.
Yeah. Well, you buy that and then you get a new one, and you have to... So they should have it by the time they get to the carousel, so they're going to be expected, and the map's going to adapt. The dirt has learned how to fight back. And
the dirt is becoming powerful.
It's becoming sentient. Please stop praying for the dirt.
Thanks for joining me, Minimat and Rito.
Thanks for having us.
It was an absolute blast. Thank you for having us.
Yep, have a good one.
Yep, take care.
Folks, we will be doing Gong Show. I'm going to go offline for a couple minutes, and I'll be back in probably 10 with that, if you're interested in that. And then after 2 hours of that, I'll probably do some Elden Ring on a new run, non-punch. We'll be back. See you then. In the meantime, I'm going to host Ty Tuesday, who is currently live, I believe. See you later.